Okay, so let me let Brandy give us the overview.
Great. Hey, y'all. My name is Brandy Crow, and we just really appreciate your time tonight. We are hugely excited for your interest in our grad program, the master's program, and just as a quick snapshot of what we hope to discuss with you tonight and share with you tonight. Of course, introduction to our faculty and who you'd have an opportunity to be working with, some of our research interests. You could see if you thought that would be a good fit for you. We're going to go, of course, over our program as far as where we've been, where we're at, and where we're headed. And certainly as part of that, discuss the curriculum with you, what the master's curriculum looks like, what the traditional sort of 2-year track looks like for master's students, and also discuss the differences and the similarities between our in-person and our online program, because we know that a lot of people tend to have questions about what are the differences there. We also want to talk about the online learning environment in case some of you have not been a part of an online program before, so that you have a sense of what that looks like with our program. And of course, we want to address any questions or concerns that you have as well. So we'll leave time at the end for questions and answers. But of course, if you have something specific to what we're chatting about during our chat tonight and during our webinar, feel free to give us a shout out. We want to answer any questions that you have. So I'm going to turn it on over to Marika, I think.
Yep, sorry.
Okay, I muted myself and forgot to unmute. So yeah, I'll just start the introduction. So my name is Marika Van Pembroke, really long, lots of consonants. I've been at Clemson this is my 5th year as the recreational therapy coordinator. I came to Clemson from Indiana University, where I worked for about 7 years, and prior to that, the University of Illinois. I did my graduate work at the University of Florida. And I particularly study older adults, yoga primarily, and then falls and balance and ways to intervene and improve fall risk factors and falls through different balance trainings. So that's a little bit about me. I have 2 dogs that I just love hanging out with too. Go ahead, Jasmine.
Hi guys, I'm Jasmine Townsend, assistant professor here at Clemson. This is my 4th year at Clemson, and I was a faculty member at the University of Mississippi for 2 years prior to coming here. Way back in the day, I did my PhD at Indiana, and Marika was my advisor there, so it's a little small world here at Clemson. And I do my research on veterans and adaptive sports, and that's really primarily where I live right now. And I think that's it. Oh, I don't have any dogs. I have a cat and 2 kids. So that's it. Ready, Brandy, go.
Okay, hey. So yeah, my name is Brandy Crow. This is my first year as an assistant professor in the recreational therapy department at Clemson. Previous to being here, I was an assistant professor at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. I was there for 3 years. I did my PhD at Clemson, so it's nice to be back and an opportunity to work with this team. My research interest is primarily looking at the role of leisure within individual stress and coping processes. And right now I'm zoomed in a little bit on yoga, looking at yoga as a leisure activity and the role that yoga might play within stress and coping processes. That's sort of my jam for the next little bit, and I'm excited about it. That's me.
And I'll just introduce our other 2 faculty who aren't here tonight. Brent Hawkins is also a Clemson graduate and has been on the faculty. This is his 5th year. And his research interests are primarily in the area of reintegration for veterans. And then Dr. Stephen Lewis is there in the middle of the picture, and he is a lecturer in our program, and his research interests are in the area of inclusivity, gay, lesbian, transgender rights within recreational therapy and rec therapy as a form of social justice. And then we are also so lucky to have with us tonight, just hailing from the master's degree program, Michaela. So Michaela, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, my name is Michaela Bierick, and I graduated with my master's from Clemson in the online program in May, so not that long ago, 2017. My research interests, I did my thesis in the area of the current recreational therapy services as it relates to eating disorders and the treatment of eating disorders. That's still sort of my current interest. Right now I work in Binghamton at Greater Binghamton Health Center and a child and adolescent psychiatric hospital. We get a few eating disorders coming through there. And particularly I'm interested in yoga in the treatment of eating disorders and how yoga sort of integrates into rec therapy and vice versa. So that's me. I have 2 dogs. One's a therapy dog in training and one's a dum-dum. He's sweet. So. Marika, you're muted.
Thank you. Why don't we go around and just have everybody introduce themselves real quick and tell us what you hope to be getting out of tonight, and so we make sure that we are touching on those issues for you. Sam, how can you start us off?
Yeah, so hi, I just graduated from Appalachian State in the spring. I did recreation management with an minor in special education, and I'm just interested in all of the grad programs to do with rec therapy right now, because that's kind of what my goal was with minoring in special ed and majoring in rec management. But I realized for me to even get my certification, I have to have a degree in that. So unfortunately, App State didn't have that, and so I'm looking around, and that's where my interest lies. That's why I'm here. So hello.
Hello. Okay, we've got somebody with a 202 area code. We don't have your name though. So would you unmute and tell us who you are? (202). I think. Okay, how about the 276 area code? Okay. 540. Okay. How about Misty?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I graduated from the wonderful Clemson program in 2015, and I'm currently in Charleston working at a PRTF with children. I hope to get out of this to just increase my skill and knowledge as a rec therapist, potential career advancement, and as the field grows, to keep myself competitive.
Great.
Potentially continue higher education. I don't know.
Okay, great. Glad to see you here.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, and then how about Sarah?
Hello. So I graduated from Longwood's program in Virginia in 2016. I was an activities director for a year right out of college for a rehab facility, and I'm now in the rec therapy department for a nursing home, primarily working with adults with cerebral palsy, MS, TBI. Those are some of the primary diagnoses that we work with. But I am here tonight to learn about your program and to get a little bit more information. Higher education has been something that has interested me. So I'm just kind of here to hear about your program and to learn some more.
Great. And we've got somebody signing on from VHA WAS Diggs.
Yes. I'm sorry, I was on the phone and you guys can't hear me from the phone. So I'm assuming that the other people who are on the phone can't speak either.
Got it. Okay.
So I can do it on my laptop.
Thank you.
My name is Demetris. I actually graduated from Old Dominion University in 2014 with a degree in therapeutic recreation. And right now I work at the Department of Veteran Affairs in Washington, D.C. as a recreation therapist. So I'm just interested, I'm going to piggyback on everybody else in the program, just learning more about higher graduate education and if it's something that I should be doing.
Wow, Virginia is in the house tonight, right? ODU, Longwood. I'm a Longwood grad. Very nice. Okay, excellent. And is that everybody? I think that is everybody.
Looks like it.
Okay. All right. Move right along, if you would. Thanks. Okay, so let me give you guys a little bit of a background about this program so you know kind of how we got here. So when I was, well, while Brandy and Brent were doc students in the department, the RT program was really, really tenuous. There was one full-time lecturer kind of holding it together, and Brandy and Brent helped her teach the classes and things, but it had kind of been on the chopping block. And then the provost of the university at that time realized that if they infused resources into the RT program, the RT program could really be a strong connection for the department to all of the health professions. And so they really literally put their money where their mouth was, and they hired me and then allowed me to hire other people, and with the goal of this being the best RT program in the country. And so in our first year, before I even officially started, we did a retreat, an all-day retreat, and we ended up revising the undergraduate curriculum. And in our undergraduate curriculum now, our students, we have about 150 students, and they take 10 classes as that are RT specific, far exceeding the NCTRC requirement. And then our next step was to evaluate the master's program. And the master's program at that time was similar to other master's programs where the master's level classes were also undergraduate level classes. So there wasn't really new or advanced knowledge that was being gained in the master's program. So we scratched that and developed this program, the Advanced Practice Master's Degree. And we really want to focus on people who have work experience in the field, or at least the background from classes, so that we can help build stronger leaders in the field. In our opinion, it was too messy and complicated in the same master's program to have people who had no background at all and people who had a really strong background. It was hard to find the common ground there to help them all grow simultaneously. So we've decided to focus in on advanced practice. And so our classes are all designed at the master's level. We, in all of our classes, expect that you have a strong foundation in the field, and that then you'll be able to use those work experiences towards the classes. And it makes such a beautiful and rich learning environment when that happens. So in order to be eligible for the program, to apply for the program, you must be certified or eligible. We are now, I believe, in our third year of people in this process, advanced practice. And we asked Michaela to join us as a new grad, also to speak to what the experience was like for her. Our application deadline is February 1st. And note that we have a fall start preferred. As of right now, you could still start in January, but we personally feel that the sequencing doesn't work as well if you start in January. You do have the option to do so, but a fall start puts you in line with everybody starting at the same point. And then the classes and the sequencing of the classes make a lot more sense. When people start in January, they struggle a little bit more with the research-related topics. So we just wanted to be really honest with you about that.
Okay, I'm going to take over here, but I'm going to need to stop sharing my screen for a quick minute. And I'm going to switch out away from our PowerPoint to, okay. So right now we are going to take a look at our course curriculum. If it wants to share. Ready to go. Can everybody see that document? I saw Marika.
It's really small, so you'll need to blow it up.
Oh, you want me to make it bigger?
Jasmine always harasses me about making documents bigger.
Is that okay for everybody?
Looks good.
Okay. So this is our course sequence. It says for the online MS, but this could be for the courses themselves are the same for the in-person or online with some small details, and we can discuss that. But again, assuming you start in the fall, which is our preference, we have almost every semester is a three class sequence. So you have some core PRTM courses to take, and that would be 81 or 80-10, sorry, and 80-80. And then also 81-10 in the spring. So in the first year, you get the 3 core courses and then 2 of our RT specific, which would be applied research and management of the clinical process. And I'll explain the details of our RT specific courses since I don't teach in the PRTM course, so I couldn't exactly explain the details of those ones, although Marika and Brandy, you probably know more so about those courses than I do. So feel free to chime in on those ones. But applied research and recreational therapy is a class that is about how to do research and practice. So in most undergrad programs, many students don't get a huge exposure to the research process. And so we feel that at the master's level, that's a vital piece of the knowledge and skill that needs to be learned. And so that's class number 1. And it really starts to plant an idea in your mind about what kind of research can happen in practice, and gives you some skills to come up with an idea and how to refine an idea. Brandy, do you want to talk about either one of these? You don't have to, you don't want to, but if you want
to. Sure. It's been a minute since I took those courses, but from what I recall, Philosophical Foundations really was about us grabbing a better understanding or coming to a better understanding of what is leisure. And we all know that that's really difficult to define and come to a strong point on, but developing your own philosophy and then a professional philosophy about what is leisure versus recreation, and then applying that specifically to your concentration, which in our case would be, recreational therapy. So we worked a lot developing our philosophy with regards to that. 808 or 8080 behavioral aspects, we looked a lot at different theoretical frameworks and different concepts that guide our practice with regards to PRTM, because again, it's a PRTM based course, but again, they allow you within that course to really hone it in and focus on your research area and or recreational therapy. So you learn about all the different types of theories that exist that are commonly used, and really dive into that to help frame your own research and your own ideas with regards to research in our practice.
Okay.
And Michaela might have some.
Oh, yeah.
Who just took those classes. She might have some ideas too.
Feel free.
I think you guys pretty much nailed it. The only thing I was going to say was what is the difference between first block and second block, and maybe explaining that a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll hit this a little bit more in a later slide on the PowerPoint, but if you're doing the online program, The courses themselves are all the same, but the timing is a little bit different. The core PRTM courses are block classes, which means they happen just for the first or the second 8 weeks of the semester. They're not a full 16-week class. So for example, in this first semester, if you're an online student, you would have the applied research class for the entire semester, or the whole 16 weeks on Monday night. But you would switch between the first 7 or 8 weeks in behavioral aspects on Tuesday night, and then the second 7 or 8 weeks would be philosophical foundations on Tuesday night. So you get 3 classes in one semester, but you're only taking 2 at the same time. So this is what the block is, and every semester's got something in there. But okay, so that's first semester. Second semester would be research methods, which is just broadly how to do research. This is meant to help you cultivate an idea for a project. And we'll talk about the difference between projects and theses and such in a minute. But that class gives you an opportunity to develop that more. So this is where talking about our course sequencing is very important, that you take it in this order, is that applied research helps to plant the seed about an idea for a project. And then in research methods, you refine the idea and develop it into a project. And so we've just noticed over the last few years that students who start first with research methods and then take applied research second really struggle. So again, the preference is starting in the fall. Management of the clinical process. This is a management class. Many people take, obviously, the management class at the undergrad level, but in this one, it's that next level skill where you get more experience in actually supervising the clinical process, as opposed to just what many undergrad management classes are about, building a program and learning all of the ins and outs of written plan of operation and things like that. So this is more about supervision, whether it's interns or rec therapists that work under you within your facility. And so this is and I'll talk more about this in a second, but all of our classes have a very hands-on field-based element to it, and this is your first field-based class in our program, regardless of whether you're online or in person. There is a stats class required in the master's program. If you are in our online program, it happens in the summer. If you're in our in-person class, it happens in I believe your first semester or second. Yeah, I think you can switch between your first or second year, right? We don't have it on here, but Marika, I think you can take it any semester. Yeah.
Yeah, you can take it any semester. I was trying to share my screen instead of unmute. Yeah, that was a foul.
Yeah.
You can take it any semester. But it helps to take it before you are doing any analysis for your project or exams.
Yeah. So here, again, this is the online schedule. So it's in the summer.
I will say, too, about stats, if you haven't been doing statistics for a while, I know a lot of you said you've been in practice, try and take that one when it's the only thing you're really focusing on, just because it is a lot. It's a lot of work and trying to figure it out. And if you're online and you don't have like the tutoring center nearby, it can be challenging. So, I had a couple of people in my cohort who were glad that we were only taking that class at that time. So
really super good advice. Not that I'm recommend doing this, but some people, stats is very difficult, very, very difficult. And so they end up dropping it and then pushing it back till later semesters. And if that's what has to happen, that's what has to happen. But if you don't, if you wait until the very end to take it, and then it ends up being that situation where you need to drop it to make sure you don't have a failing grade or something like that, then it just prolongs graduation. So that's something to keep in mind. Is better to start early and try to work your way through things before you get pushed up against the timeline wall.
Can I make one more comment? I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
Applied research in RT. I was one of those students who ended up taking research methods first for whatever reason, and applied research felt sort of redundant after that. So my advice to you all would be that when you're in applied research, start thinking about your project ideas when you're in that class, because then in research methods, you'll be putting it all together sort of block by block, and it'll make a lot more sense if you've sort of bounced your ideas off of a recreation therapist, gotten to talk to some of your other professors about your idea for your project, and then start gathering some of that research and that applied research in RT class. It'll make research methods a lot easier. Otherwise, research methods can feel really overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, let me just stop for a second and talk about statistics 1 more minute. Because one thing that has happened just recently, and Jasmine's been a big part of this, is that there's been a revision to the statistics class to make it more, both in person and online, more applied and appropriate for RT students. So Jasmine teaches it in the summer, and then we have somebody else in the department teaching it. So it has been revised to make it a little more user-friendly.
I remember the days where I was learning about pounds per square inch of pressure required to compress asphalt. And that's what we were using as examples in my stats classes. And that is not what we do in our stats classes right now that I'm teaching. It's all applied rec therapy data. It's data that I've collected through my research and other people. And so it's very RT specific. And I think that helps people be able to understand the difficult statistical concepts better.
I'm going to jump in for a quick second and piggyback off of what Michaela shared. The same, I would say, holds true for behavioral aspects and philosophical foundations. And taking those first, it allows you to build towards your idea of your thesis. So that was where that behavioral aspects class is where I got hooked on stress and coping theory and the leisure coping framework. So you can use those assignments within those classes purposefully tailored towards your project or your thesis. So that, as Michaela was saying, there's a nice progression and a really nice building block. So when it comes time to research methods and putting your proposal together, you already have a lot of the puzzle pieces put together. It's just a matter of putting the final picture all together in one flowing document. So you can be really purposeful in how you utilize those assignments in those classes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to come back to the master's project at the end really quick. I'll get through the other main content classes. So into year 2 here, we have, I'm just going to delete this sentence right here. We have a program development and consulting class in recreational therapy. And this class is about learning how to collaborate with other organizations, whether it's on a research project or in developing programs, and to just learn more about working outside of your own facility where you may be working as a recreational therapist. Marika has historically taught this class, and I've taken it over this year. Do you want to add anything to that description?
I think this class historically has also helped people launch their own private consulting business if they so choose to do that. There have been a lot of people who have been really successful as a result of their consulting project, parlaying that into a consulting business. So it's a really different kind of take on graduate level work, but it helped you to think more entrepreneurially about what your skill set is and how to apply that.
Great. Okay, so then into year 2, into the spring semester of year 2, so this would be the last semester. There are 2 classes here that happen. This is advanced facilitation in rec therapy, the first class here, and this is, Brandy is starting to teach this class this year, and this is an opportunity to go deep into learning about a technique, as opposed to in an undergrad facilitation class, you learn a little bit about a lot of different facilitation techniques. In this class, you learn a lot about just one. And so, do you want to add anything to that one? Okay. It's really just meant to kind of deepen your toolbox on that one. Instead of make it bigger, we're just adding depth to it. The advanced theory class is I can't remember who teaches this one now. Is this you, Marika? Yeah, Marika teaches this one. And this just gives you a real good overview of all of the theories that we use in recreational therapy. And this is also a beneficial one for developing the frameworks that we use to do our research. And we believe, and again, this goes into the advanced practice element of our degree, is as a faculty, we believe that a master's level education requires research knowledge that is not passed along at the undergraduate level. And classes like the advanced theory class and applied research and rec therapy really give you that skill through our degree. And so these are important concepts to learn. I mean, people hear the word theory and sometimes their eyes glaze over, but this is meant to kind of break that spell type of a thing and not be afraid of using theory and being able to do research.
Mm-hmm. And this class really uses a lot of social psych theory and disability theory. And what is so fun about this class is that it gives a new way to describe things you see every day in your work, but it provides kind of a broader lens for explaining the behaviors and actions that you see. It's really a fabulous and exciting topical area.
That's a fun class. We think all of our classes are fun, but we might be biased. Okay, so the last few classes that you'll see on here, and I'm jumping the gun a little bit for one of our PowerPoint slides, but that's okay. If you're in our online program, you have a choice between a master's project or comprehensive exams. If you're in our in-person program, you don't have a choice and you'll be doing a thesis. And so a master's project is similar to a thesis project. Here we spread it out over 3 semesters. So you take a 1-credit class in the summer and then 1 in the fall and 1 in the spring. And this really gives you a good year-ish to collect your data and analyze all that. You will have, hopefully, if you use your time in class wisely, you can start with an idea in applied research, you can refine it into a full proposal in research methods, and then you can just dive right into it in the summer in terms of collecting data on something. And so many of our online students, and Michaela, you can certainly speak to this, many of our online students are employed as rec therapists working in a facility, and they do their projects in the facility where they work, and that is a very smart use of time. You know, we are advocates of working smarter, not harder. So I don't know, Michaela, do you want to add anything to the project experience there in terms of the timeline and all that?
Yeah, I would say, like, if you can use the resources that are right around you, absolutely do it, just because it'll keep you sane. Like, it's a lot of work, and so if you can use what's right in front of you, you should do that. If you have to, I did sort of a survey, which was fine because I didn't work anywhere at the time. So there's always that option. I surveyed a bunch of eating disorder rehabs and asked them if they had rec therapy or if they knew anything about it. So that was sort of there's just a ton of ways that you can approach the project. So if you don't work in what your dream job is, that's okay. Try and think around it and figure out what you want to study. And you could do a survey, or you could do some other type of approach that you feel really passionate about if it's not what you're currently doing. I know also, like, sometimes facilities are hard to get approval from. So if you have, if you have to jump through a bunch of hoops to get approval to do research at your facility or whatever, just do what is going to cause you the least amount of stress, because getting the project off the ground is sort of the hardest part. So.
And I mean, if you already have an idea of what you're, interested in terms of research, that always helps, and you come right into the program and you start working on it in applied research, and then again refining it in research methods. And so the expectation isn't that you don't work on anything and then all of a sudden in that first summer, boom, I have to be full speed on a project. It's intended to develop through that first year in the coursework, and you get a lot of different faculty's perspectives about it. So I teach the applied research class, so I'll weigh in on what your thoughts are about your idea, and then you go into research methods, and whoever's teaching that will give you feedback and help further refine the idea. And it's really good to have all of these different perspectives weighing in on research ideas, because it helps just further fine tune it.
And if I can just say that Although in the online master's program, it's a project or exam option. For people who are interested in potentially going on for their PhD, like Michaela, there is the option to do kind of a beefed up project, which is much more thesis-like, so that you do the entire research process, and it's a rigorous type of study, which will help prepare you if you're ever interested in going on for your PhD.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Yeah, and if you have social anxiety, they don't make you defend it. But it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work.
I'll describe the differences with the defenses and such in a minute. Okay, so the other option, if you're not interested in doing a project, you can take comprehensive exams, and this happens in your very last semester of coursework. And it's right now the format is looking like it's going to be a one-day thing, a proctored type of an exam where you get a couple of questions out of a bank of questions, and they are essay responses where you don't have, you can't use the internet or books or anything like that. You just have to sit down and write an answer out to any of the questions. And these questions really are intended to come from the core PRTM courses. So that would be philosophy, behavioral aspects, and research methods. And then likely there would also be some RT ones in there, but more focused on the PRTM core. And so then that's just a one-day thing. Your answers are graded, and if you fail the written portion, then it would move on potentially to having to either redo the written portion or having an oral defense of those, where your people would ask you questions about why you wrote what you wrote. But that's comprehensive exams are just the other option. So regardless of what you choose, there has to be this culminating kind of project, which is, or element to our degree, which is either a project or comprehensive exams. And so, I mean, the credits might look a little bit weird on here, but it's either or project or exams, and you either do 3 credits of exams or 3 credits spread out one at a time for project. So that's pretty much the entirety of our coursework here. Let me just jump really quick back to our PowerPoint, and we can hang on a second. Back to things here. So let's talk a little bit in more detail about the online learning, the online experience in our program. So we teach in a synchronous classroom, and it's like a hybrid course basically, which means that we have people physically in class, and then we have people stream in live through Zoom, like what we're doing right now. And so everybody gets this real-time experience. Our online classes are not asynchronous, where you work at your own pace. You never interact with an instructor or other students. It's meant to be a classroom-like experience, just virtually. And so much like what you see where we've got little Brady Bunch type of video tiles, this is very much what class is like every night. We mute ourselves, we unmute ourselves to make sure that, you know, our barking dogs in the background, or in my case, our screaming children in the background, are not also present in class. But for the most part, I mean, and Michaela, you can weigh in on this, it seems like it's a class experience instead of this like online, not very serious experience.
Yeah, the classroom, I think online it's really, I'm sort of an assertive type, so I'm like the first to speak up online. I think that was kind of hard for a lot of people to like unmute and just start talking without really being called on. So getting used to that can take a little bit of time, but you know, they have like different functions where sometimes you can raise your hand and, you know, or you can just wave like this and the professor will be like, oh, Michaela wants to say something. So there, you know, you figure it out and you can chat on the bottom. So I think it always felt like I sort of knew who I was going to class with. I just didn't know how tall they were.
That's funny. Actually, it's really funny that you say that because I did once meet one of our online students at a conference, and I said that to her. I was like, "Man, you are tall," because there's no way whatsoever to tell. So, yes, the online classroom is funny. The cohort culture. So, Rachel, what did we mean by this?
Well, that our students all take the same classes in the same order, and so they walk through the classes together. So it really creates kind of a virtual cohort and environment for people in the program.
Right. Okay. That's what, now that you say that, I remember. I won't re-explain that. Okay. So you are able to interact with in-person students through our virtual classroom here. But also our students also email each other online, in person. We don't really draw a distinction between our students like this. It's just our students. And so I don't know if you guys drew a distinction between yourselves, Michaela, but from my perspective, everybody seemed to interact with each other in the same ways as you guys would here through email, short of hanging out with each other in a grad office type of a thing.
Yeah, I do think, like, again, just with the assertiveness piece, if you need help, you have to email your professor. You have to set up a phone meeting with them. Otherwise, you're just going to kind of get not left in the dust, but you don't get to just pop into their office every time you need something. So you have to sort of virtually pop in. And they'll even set up face-to-face meetings like this on Zoom with you if you need something more than just a phone call or whatever.
We are all pretty much open and available to the online students to give the resources. And I mean, we realize you can't pop your heads into our office. And so for the most part during the day, we're all available to have meetings. And so in many situations, we'll intentionally set up weekly meetings with our students just to check in on progress on projects or whatever. And so Michaela is right that you do have to take that upon yourself and be assertive, but we are available to do that. Many of our courses have, hands-on experiences that require you to find a facility in your local area. So if you're already employed and you're able to work something into what you're doing in your organization, then that's great. If you're not employed, we encourage you to find a local rec therapy site where you can do a lot of the stuff that's required for classes. So this really pertains to the management class and the advanced facilitation class, where a lot of the class assignments require you to work hands-on with clients and such. And so this is intentional because it's an advanced practice element. So we want there to be more experience. It's not just to talk about it. So we want you to gain more skill. And so in our in-person program, we have that element built in to our classes here with local facilities. And so since that would be more the responsibility for setting that up in your own community is on you for that. So we've touched on a little bit on the project versus comps element. It's one or the other, and they're two very different experiences. And so it's just about what is going to fit best with your learning style, your personality, and even your job. And so if you have a very intense job and you're not sure that you could spend 3 semesters working on a project or research project, then maybe taking a few days to do comprehensive exams at the very end is more suiting to your situation. And so this is something that you can talk to me as the online master's advisor, that we could work these things out as we go. And so as long as one of them is completed, that is all that matters. Anybody want to weigh in, Michaela or Marika or Brandy, on this? Any of this? Okay, so what about our in-person program? All of the courses are the same. The content is the same across the board. Instead of being streaming in our in-person program, you're present in class. The main difference, I would guess, is having assistantships available. And so this is where you can apply to work basically for us in the department. And so people who get assistantships are assigned to one of the faculty members and to do a variety of things. It could be research, it could be teaching, it could be grading. Lots of different opportunities arise from having assistantships. They are competitive and not everybody is able to be funded. But if somebody were to get full funding, that means they also get a tuition waiver and a stipend every month. And so assistantships are fantastic opportunities to not have to work a job. Well, technically your job is working for us, but not have to work an outside job while you're going to school, and then you get school paid for. And again, they're beyond just doing like the work of an assistantship. There are a lot of opportunities that arise from being involved in projects in the department. And so if this is something that you're going back and forth between coming here or doing the online component, but you'd be very interested in being involved in research projects with faculty members, then being in person will provide that opportunity over being online. So we talked about projects with the online program. In the in-person program, it is a thesis project, and this is a fully developed research project. There is a requirement to do a proposal of your idea. So once you go through that applied research class and then the research methods class, hopefully by then you've developed a proposal, an idea all the way through to the stage where you propose it to your committee. And then once it gets approved, you have to go through an IRB process, a review with the review board at the university. And once it's approved, then you can start collecting your data and such. And then however long that takes for your project, you have to then at the end do a defense of your project. And this is something that is different from the project in the online masters. There's no proposal or defense meetings with committee members. So that is a 20-minute presentation where you get up and you talk about what you're going to do. And then at the end, you talk about what you did, and people can ask you questions about it. So it's pretty much a standard research presentation. And so that is a different element with our in-person, but it is a required part of the thesis project. We do have a lot of hands-on experiences in our in-person program, and that is also similar to the online through our coursework, but then also extra opportunities through research teams and such. And so, for example, Marika and Brandy are running a yoga research study right now, and our master's students are involved in various ways with that. Dr. Hawkins is running a reminiscence therapy program with the local long-term care center, and he's got graduate students working not as assistantship, but I mean, they're picking up a few hours of side work. It's their side hustle. And just good experience. And that's all stuff that can go on a resume for future job opportunities. And so those are things that happen just purely by being here and in person with us. The instructor interactions are slightly different in the in-person program. Like Michaela mentioned, you can pop your head in. And so many people do, just walking by the hall, stop and want to ask a quick question about a class-related issue or not related to class. They want to talk about a thesis idea or anything like that. And so you do have easier and almost instant access to any of the faculty members. And if that's something that you really need, that one-on-one type of interaction, and you don't think you would do well with this distance element, then an in-person program might be better suited for you as well. So before I move on and let Marika take over, the main difference I would say between our online and our in-person programs in terms of who this is for is if somebody is employed and cannot leave that job, has a home and a family, or you're established in a location and you can't leave, the online program is an ideal program for you. If you're in a situation where you can sell a contract or sell a home and you're not tied to a school anywhere or anything, or family members, and you can up and leave and just come on down to Clemson, then the in-person program would be for you. Either way, the programs are really almost identical, other than these few small things.
And let me just add that there are many people who come in person with families too.
Mm-hmm.
So a family is not a criteria of online or in person.
No.
There are people who come to graduate school and even have children during graduate school.
No, but if you, for whatever reason, can't can't move, whatever that may be.
Right.
For many people, it's a financial thing too, because it does cost money to get down here and do all that, and if it's just not working out.
Okay,
and some people have really fantastic jobs and you don't want to quit, and that's okay too.
That's an important thing to mention too, is that online, the tuition is considerably cheaper if you are out of state. So than if you were to be paying out of state, because there's an online learning tuition, which is just slightly higher than the in-state tuition. So it's really financially a good deal also to pay the online tuition versus the out-of-state tuition.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that's the end of my slides.
Yep. So this is the website, which probably you've seen. Jasmine is our master's coordinator.
Sorry.
Nope, that's okay. Go right ahead. Look at a
okay.
picture of campus. On the next slide. So let's open it up. Let's hear what kind of questions you guys have for any of us.
Hi, this is Molly Hazlett.
Hi, Molly. Oh, now we see you. Yay.
I was on the phone, but it didn't work. I mean, I couldn't talk.
Well, this is great.
It wouldn't let me talk. So I do have a quick question. So like I said, I've been in the field for like 16 years now. And so my goal was to maybe go into the master's program with the administrative side. And so would it still be like the same criteria, like, you know, your letters of reference and your transcripts and all that, but it will be from 2001. I mean,
that's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. Yep. But yes, it's still that you provide a statement of interest, why you're interested in the program. You still have references and still submit your transcripts. Yes. Now, another difference in the programs that we didn't mention is that for the online program, the GRE is not required. And for the in-person program, the GRE is required.
Right.
So.
And one thing I would say about people who are submitting for the applications for either the online program or the in-person program, in writing that cover letter, I think there are some prompts about what to talk about, and definitely follow the prompts, but also I think it's a good idea to write about where you see this degree helping you progress in your profession as a recreation therapist. Because that helps us have a better understanding of what your hopes and dreams are getting out of this program. And when we have to, we want to accept everybody, but it can't always work out. We have to understand the best people to be in the program. So that helps us, especially when we can't meet people ahead of time too. So when we're basing everything just off of the paperwork that we're getting, it's also a hard decision. So help us understand you and know you in that letter.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Thank you, Molly. Any other questions?
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
So I know you guys said that the online and the in-person is basically the same, but then you guys also earlier mentioned that I think Michaela, is that how you say it? She beefed up her project because she wanted to go ahead and get her PhD. I mean, not to say that I would be that much of a go hard, but I would want it on the table, like potentially. I mean, is the online presence enough to potentially go on and get a PhD if that's something that I was interested in the future?
Totally. And so what Michaela did online is she beefed up her project to make it more robust so that it's more thesis-like. So the big thing for PhD programs is that when we're looking at PhD potential students, that they have research experience. And so the thesis, there are some more kind of, or a beefed up project, there are some more kind of teeth to the project. some more rigor in the research trajectory. So absolutely, you just need to let your advisor know that you're interested in doing that, and it's really easy to do. Well,
Okay.
let me say, it's really easy to start on that path.
Okay.
Can I offer an example of
Please.
the difference? And you can correct me if Marika, if I'm wrong, because I didn't do the project. But for example, I did a project in another class about clinical supervision. I did a ton of research on clinical supervision, but I just gathered data about clinical supervision and the RT internship and those types of things. And then I used all that research and I developed a model of clinical supervision that is not based on any sort of actual research as it relates to recreational therapy internships, but it was based off of research of other models of clinical supervision, etc. That would be like a really good project with probably a few extra elements. But then the thesis, I actually conducted a whole survey. I had to like call a zillion facilities, collect data, do data analysis, write it all up. I did the proposal, had to get the committee, the IRB approval, all of that. So there was a lot of extra elements in the thesis side of things versus the put together a really nice project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good description. And so IRB is the human subjects protection. So anytime we do research with human subjects for a thesis, particularly, we're required to do that. And that's just some extra paperwork, but to make sure that we're protecting the people that we're working with. But yeah, that was a nice example.
So you were just doing that to make yourself more competitive for when you did apply?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And then I have two more questions. So you said that the online program doesn't require you to take the GRE, but it's an application process. So does the GRE make you more competitive to be accepted into the program, or is it really just based off of your application?
It doesn't make you more competitive. We pay really close attention to your letter, and we pay really close attention to your transcripts and your references.
Okay. And then one last question is if you could just speak a little bit more on the project so I could have a better idea of what, I guess, just a little more thoroughness.
I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you guys take it.
So I did a master's project when I was in my master's program, not at Clemson, but I think this is another example of a project. So I was working with an adaptive snow sports program. It was ski and snowboard only. And they were interested, that organization was interested in extending their programming to a summer term. But they wanted to know sort of what were best practices for doing that. So I ended up interviewing executive directors from several other adaptive sports organizations across the country who had started in that very same model, started as a winter sports program and ultimately extended to a year-round program or to a 2-season program to ask about sort of their best practices. And then based off that information I obtained from them, sort of put together that best practice sort of final booklet that the organization I was working with could incorporate into their strategic plan. And so then they developed sort of a 3 to 5 year plan based off of the information I'd gathered about how other organizations had done it, sort of lessons learned, so that they could do it without sort of reinventing the wheel. So that's just another example of what a project might involve or look like.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great example. And one key difference here is that's not the kind of work that could necessarily be published in a journal, but it's super valuable to the organization, but probably isn't the type of work that contributes to the evidence base of the field. And so that's kind of just, another way maybe to think about the difference.
I have another question about the project.
Okay.
So I work at the Salem VA Medical Center in Virginia. Have you all had any luck with, because I know we do IRBs and all that. I mean, does your school have luck like getting approval like, does it have to be approval from Clemson and the federal government, or?
Oh my
Have
gosh.
y'all
Well, you
had
know
any
how
luck?
it goes in the VA, right? Like paperwork city.
Yeah.
One of my online master students right now works at a VA in Tennessee, and she wants to collect data with her folks. And so I've had to sign an agreement with her VA. It went through really quickly though.
Okay.
But I've signed an agreement with her VA, and then she's laid out her project for them. She's not quite at the IRB stage, but what the plan is that she'll submit it to the VA IRB. And then when it gets approved through there, then we'll send the notification to the Clemson IRB just so that they know. But the Clemson IRB will take the word of the VA IRB.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know that's a process. Okay.
It actually went through the VA much faster than I expected it to.
Well, good.
Yeah. Great questions. Any other questions?
Can we speak a little bit about cost? Because I was looking it up on trying to figure it out the other day online, and it wasn't super clear. Is there any book cost? What is the online cost compared to? I know it's different from undergrad, but it's not super clear online.
There are textbook costs for each class, I believe. Jasmine, do you know I can look it up. We're a tier, if you go onto the graduate school website and you look at the finances, we're a tier 3 program. It will tell you there what the cost per hour, per credit hour is. I don't know it off the top of my head though.
Thanks. I can find that. That's what I
Okay.
did. I had no idea. Thanks.
I know it's confusing. Like, what does tier 3 mean? How do you know? What is a tier 3?
Yeah, and Amazon Rentals is going to be your best friend for textbooks. Amazon Rentals. You rent them, keep them the whole semester, and send them back. And you pay like $20 for a $200 textbook. Yeah.
Nice.
Unless, of course, you want to keep them for your bookshelf in your office one day.
Which is also a good idea.
I have
Go ahead.
I have another question. So the online, you said that you prefer your application needs to be in by February. I'm currently in my second year of the guided imagery and music training, and I probably have another, like maybe a half a year. I mean, so probably wouldn't be this February that I could apply actually. So do I just wait until the next year, or should I just go ahead and, could you go ahead and apply and then wait? Or how does that work?
You can go ahead and apply and then wait and defer as long as you need to.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you
two at the same time.
yeah, that would be a doozy. But if you'll be done in 6 months, those programs won't overlap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we won't start until August.
Okay.
It will be close, but it wouldn't be.
It will be close. Yeah, I'll have to look.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that deadline is pretty strict for the in-person students, and it is heavily recommended for the online students. But in a situation like yours, you know, you could always contact us and say, "Hey, I'm right in the middle of doing this, and can we work on that?" And you know, we could work on that. But February is the preferred time, just so that we can have time to see all the applications and get through all of that, and not have applications coming in through in like July and August for people who want to start school that semester in the fall.
Right. Okay.
Dimitris, do you have any questions? I'm sorry if I said your name wrong.
Oh, you said it right.
Oh, good.
No, I don't have any questions right now. I think everybody asked pretty much everything I was thinking.
Okay. Great.
Sorry for my yawn.
And Sarah, what about you?
I don't currently have any questions.
Okay. Okay, great. Well,
Maybe,
go ahead. Go
quick
ahead.
follow-up, this might be wrong, so Marika or Jasmine, tell me if it is, but Missy, back to your question about finances, even though with the online program you're not eligible for assistantship, you can still apply for loans and financial aid, and there are some limited scholarships. Those are sometimes harder to find, but you're still eligible for loans and financial aid through the online program.
Yeah, that's correct, as long as you take 6 credits per semester.
Although some, we do have some other students in our online program, in our online doctoral program, who have found scholarships external to the university and such that are not available for online students. So that's something to always make sure to look at when you see like private scholarships that they extend to online programs. But another thing to keep in mind is to talk to your employer too, because we do have a number of students whose tuition is being paid by their employer, which is fantastic. And you never know until you ask. So it's worth kind of asking around and seeing what people will do.
So I actually have a question. It's Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
So I know at my job, they'll pay for 1 course a semester. So that's something that I've kind of been considering. Is that an option? Does it make it more difficult without taking the 2 classes at the same time if you're doing the online route?
No, we do have students who are on kind of an extended plan where it will be longer than 2 years. It will just take you a lot longer. It's basically the gist of that one. And if it's one class, it's only 1 class, that's a hard 1 class a semester.
I think so. And obviously I could pay, like I could use that to my benefit and still take the 2
Sure.
and kind of work through it. But, I just kind of, as I'm thinking, how long would that take to do if I just did like 1 class a semester?
That would be,
It's going to be closer to 4 years, I
4
think.
to 5 years. Yeah. And one thing you may have noticed is that none of those PRTM or RT classes are offered in the summer. And so you could work on project hours in the summer or the stats class in the summer, but that's really it. So, that would extend the degree completion quite a bit. And then there would also maybe be some strategic timing of where you would want to do your project in there, or versus comps. It might be easier to just save that all for comps instead of dragging that out over 3 more semesters.
Okay.
If you don't want to prolong your time, but there are ways to work around things like that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or last minute comments?
Just thank you all for putting this on. Very
You're so
informative.
welcome. Thank you for joining us, and please feel free. Jasmine's email again is jntowns@Clemson. Feel free to email her. You can email any of us. Absolutely, our emails are on the website. She particularly focuses on the master's program, but any of us can help you. So thank you all so much for joining us, and please let us know what other questions you have, and we'll be happy to help you. And we look forward to maybe welcoming you to the Clemson Tiger family if you're so inclined.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. Good night.
Night.
Marika, are you going to stop recording?